Power is never built in the crowd. It is built in the quiet corridors where no one is watching. The masses believe strength is found in alliances, in constant contact, in being surrounded. But Machiavelli knew the opposite, that true power is forged in solitude, because solitude is not isolation. It is concealment. It is the cold forge where thought is sharpened, strategy is perfected, and weakness is erased before anyone can see it. The powerful man withdraws, not because he fears the world, but because he understands it too well. He knows that every presence is a pull, every conversation, a transaction, every connection, a potential leak in the dam of his control. In solitude, he is untouchable, invisible to enemies, unpredictable to rivals, and immune to the constant noise that enslaves lesser men. This is why the most powerful men appear alone. They are not abandoned. They have abandoned the illusion that companionship equals strength. If you want the kind of control they have, you must learn to walk away from the noise. Stay with me, and I'll show you the hidden laws of solitude, the ones that will make you unapproachable, unreadable, and unstoppable. Law 1. Solitude is the fortress of the mind. Men surrounded by constant company imagine themselves protected, yet their nearness corrodes them. Every conversation opens a seam, every shared thought becomes leverage, and the self thins into something negotiated. Power does not collapse in a single blow. It leaks through attention, disclosure, and habit. Solitude, properly used, is the architecture that halts the leak. You are most exposed when you feel most connected. The attention feels warm, the replies immediate, the exchange flattering. Under that warmth, your mind begins to soften and drift. You explain yourself, then clarify, then justify. Each step seems harmless, yet each step drafts a map of your defenses. You notice it later, when a private detail appears in another mouth, when your hesitations are anticipated, when your plans stall because they were already seen. This is how your control bleeds, not by force, but by friendly access. To stop it, you withdraw without ceremony, without announcements, with quiet refusals that do not invite debate. You answer slower. You decline the casual debrief. You let silence carry what words would have surrendered. In that quiet, your thinking hardens. Distractions stop diluting your intent. Inferior opinions stop contaminating your judgment. You begin to hear the steel edge of your own reasoning. Then fear arrives with its counterfeit wisdom. It insists distance will cost you allies, status, momentum, and whispers that isolation is weakness. Fear is dependency speaking through a familiar voice. When you feed it, you return to the crowd and barter away sovereignty for reassurance. This is where you cut and choose discomfort over compromise. Hold the line long enough to feel the shaking and remain still. Midway through that stillness, the pattern becomes visible. The ruler's first domain is not land, armies, or gold. It is his mind, Machiavelli warned. And the mind cannot be guarded in the chaos of constant company. Every word exchanged is an opening. Every shared thought becomes a thread for another hand to pull. You are not being social. You are being cataloged, indexed, and prepared for leverage. So you design a fortress and deny the reflex to explain. You reduce visibility to intention, not appetite. Your calendar becomes unreadable, your motives opaque, your movements separated by empty intervals that cannot be measured from the outside. Behind that space, you practice ruthless self-observation, watching spikes of vanity, the hunger for response, the collapse into performance. Each time hunger appears, you withhold. Each time vanity rises, you lower the volume until even you can barely hear it. With repetition, your emotions stop issuing commands and begin delivering reports. The noise recedes, and the battlefield's outline sharpens in the distance. Now your words grow scarce and therefore expensive. Information travels outward only when it functions as a weapon. To bait, to mislead, to time lock a decision. You speak to test, not to share. You meet to observe, not to bond. When they seek your certainty, you offer ambiguity. When they seek your location, you offer absence. Their guesses multiply. Their coordination fractures, and their nerve thins. They cannot attack what they cannot read. You become a moving horizon, present only where advantage demands. What remains is a discipline, cold and repeatable. Close the gate. Keep the watch. Advance only when movement changes the ground beneath them. Law 2. Distance creates mystery, and mystery creates power. The more a figure is seen, the less they are noticed. Repetition dulls impact. Familiarity erodes significance. Constant presence turns command into background noise, and even authority into something ordinary. When access is unlimited, value declines, and what was once commanding becomes another feature of the landscape. Visible, reachable, and no longer feared, you lose power the moment you become predictable. Every time they know where you will be, what you will say, or how you will respond, they stop wondering about you. And once they stop wondering, they stop respecting. The dangerous man is not the one always in sight. He is the one they speak about in his absence. Because absence forces the mind to invent. When they cannot see you, they are forced to fill the void with their own projections. And those projections will always be larger, darker, and more powerful than reality. You've seen it before. The one who is always available becomes furniture in the room. Present, but unnoticed. Part of the scenery rather than the center. Machiavelli understood this decay when he observed that familiarity breeds contempt, but distance breeds myth. When you withhold your presence, they begin to exaggerate your capabilities. They will imagine strengths you do not yet possess and victories you have not yet won. The mind creates shadows more imposing than the man who casts them, and those shadows can work for you without you lifting a hand. Your absence is not a void. It is a stage. Each rare appearance becomes an event. Every word you speak in those moments is heavy with scarcity, and scarcity makes people listen differently. They measure each syllable, wondering if it carries a hidden meaning. The less you say, the more they dissect. The less you reveal, the more they imagine. In that space between what is known and what is guessed, power grows quietly. Distance also blinds your enemies. A man who is constantly visible leaves behind a trail of tells, habits, and vulnerabilities. In your presence, they can read your posture, your timing, your mood. In your absence, they are left with guesses. And guesses are weak foundations for attack. They prepare for the wrong battle, strike at the wrong time, and exhaust themselves fighting an enemy who has already moved. The most dangerous predator is not the one you see. It is the one you only sense, the one that appears only when the strike is certain. Control of perception begins with control of access. When you choose when and where you appear, you dictate the narrative without speaking a word. You allow rumors to do the work for you, feeding your myth without risking exposure. Resist the temptation to correct the stories told in your absence. Their inaccuracy is an asset, not a threat. Let them imagine you as more than you are. The imagined version of you is harder to challenge than the real one. The less they see, the more they believe. Withdraw until every appearance feels intentional. Keep them waiting until anticipation becomes discomfort. And when you finally step forward, let the moment be calculated so it leaves an imprint. Distance is not retreat. It is positioning. It is the slow tightening of the net around those who believe they still have room to move. Law 3. The crowd is a mirror that warps the self. Among men, the crowd functions as a slow, corrosive force. It shapes behavior not through direct command, but through the subtle gravity of shared thought. In this space, the individual bends unconsciously toward the expectations around him until his movements, opinions, and even desires cease to be entirely his own. What appears to be social harmony is often nothing more than the quiet surrender of identity. You think you are immune to it. You imagine that by holding strong opinions and guarding your words, you maintain control. But the truth is far quieter and far more dangerous. Every glance you receive, every laugh you chase, every frown you notice, it all reshapes you. You adopt the rhythm of the group, its priorities, its fears. Without realizing it, you trade pieces of yourself for the comfort of belonging. And when the last piece is gone, there is nothing left but the reflection they allow you to see. It starts with small concessions. You silence a thought to avoid friction. You nod in agreement to a statement you do not truly believe. You begin to anticipate their reactions, adjusting before the words even leave your mouth. Over time, these minor edits to your truth accumulate, and the man you were becomes a stranger you cannot quite place. As Machiavelli observed, "He who controls your mind controls your fate." And the crowd always seeks that control, even when it pretends to celebrate your individuality. The cost of this influence is not immediate ruin. It is gradual disintegration. You lose the ability to think without accounting for their gaze. You hesitate before every decision, weighing not its value to you, but its reception by them. And soon, your ambitions are no longer born from your own hunger, but from the echoes of their approval. You have not been conquered in open battle. You have been hollowed out in plain sight. Solitude is the antidote, but it demands more than physical distance. It requires the discipline to withdraw from the pull of validation. Alone, you hear your own voice again. Unfiltered, unshaped by the crowd's expectations. You begin to notice how much of your past thinking was inherited, how many of your beliefs were souvenirs from other people's minds. In solitude, you stop collecting and start creating. What remains after the noise is stripped away is your true self. Sharp, unbending, sovereign. Yet solitude is not a place of comfort. It is a crucible. Without the crowd to affirm you, you are left with no shield against your own reflection. Most men cannot bear this silence. They run back to the safety of noise, mistaking it for life. But the powerful man endures. He understands that the crowd's mirror does not reflect the truth. It reflects the version of himself they wish to control. By stepping away, he shatters that mirror. The masses will call it arrogance, selfishness, even weakness. They will insist that strength is found in unity, that isolation is a flaw. But this is the voice of those who cannot exist without constant reinforcement. The man who chooses solitude does not reject the world. He rejects its claim over his mind. He stands apart, watching the current drag them in endless circles, knowing that to enter it is to lose the helm of his own destiny. And so he remains on the shore, untouchable, unshaped, and entirely his own. Law 4. Silence is the sharpest blade. In every hierarchy, words are the currency that drains the fastest. The more they are spent, the less value they hold. Those who speak endlessly bleed power through constant disclosure. Each sentence another crack in the armor. Silence, in contrast, is a fortress. It hides the architecture of thought, forcing others to speculate in the absence of truth. You feel the pull to speak, to clarify, to correct, to prove you are in control. That impulse is your enemy. Every word you give away becomes a weapon that can be turned against you. Machiavelli wrote that silence is a weapon sharper than any sword because it draws blood without movement, cripples without confrontation. The moment you withhold what others expect, you become a problem they cannot solve, and that uncertainty corrodes their confidence faster than any insult could. You do not need to defend yourself. You do not need to explain your reasons. When you speak less, the world leans in to hear you. And when you finally speak, your words land like a blade against unguarded skin. This is the advantage of the man who is rarely seen and rarely heard. His presence is felt before his voice is heard, and his absence is louder than the chatter of his enemies. In solitude, this silence becomes weaponized, free from the constant demands to respond, react, or appease. You will notice how people begin to overinterpret you. A delayed reply becomes a signal. A single sentence becomes a manifesto. Rivals will search your silence for cracks. Allies will invent meanings that align with their hopes. They will write your story for you, and in doing so, reveal more about themselves than you ever reveal about yourself. This is the paradox of silence. You gain knowledge without sacrificing secrecy. In war, the most dangerous opponent is the one who gives away nothing. No plan, no emotion, no signal. You do not need to fight openly when you can let others collapse under the weight of their own assumptions. Speaking less is not passive. It is a deliberate act of control. It forces others into a position where they must move first, giving you the clarity to strike when it matters most. The man who speaks only when necessary controls not only the conversation, but the entire frame of reality. In solitude, your silence is not an accident. It is a design, and a designed silence cannot be penetrated. It is the sharpest blade because it never dulls, never reveals, and never gives the enemy a clean target to strike. The less they hear from you, the more they fear what you might be thinking. Law 5. Companionship dilutes authority. Some men begin as figures of command, their presence carrying weight simply by entering a room. Yet over time, their authority fades. Not because of defeat, but because of proximity. When a leader is always seen, always surrounded, the mystery that sustains his dominance begins to erode. What was once feared becomes familiar, and familiarity is the slowest form of decay. You think loyalty is built through constant presence. You believe that dining with them, walking with them, and sharing laughter will make them respect you more. But every shared joke lowers the pedestal you stand on. Every casual conversation gives them a glimpse into your ordinary self, the self they can judge, compare, and even dismiss. Authority does not survive intimacy. It starves in it. Machiavelli warned that companionship demands compromise, and compromise is a wound to command. The man who keeps too many close will one day wake to find he is not leading, but negotiating. The truth you avoid is that those closest to you are the ones most capable of undermining you. They watch your silences, your hesitations, your contradictions. They learn what angers you, what flatters you, and what makes you doubt yourself. And once they know your rhythms, They can move around you or against you without fear. You mistake their proximity for loyalty, not realizing that it is merely access. Power survives only when that access is rationed. You do not feed wolves from your own hand unless you want their teeth on your wrist. You want to believe that trust can exist without cost, that companions will not one day test the limits of your tolerance. But companionship changes the balance. It shifts from deference to familiarity, and from familiarity to assumption. They assume you will forgive, that you will bend, that you will listen when you should dismiss. In their eyes, you stop being untouchable and start being human. And the moment they see you as human, they will treat you as equal. Once you are equal, you can never be above them again. This is why the powerful keep relationships cold, deliberate, and measured. Every encounter is controlled. Every moment of presence is rationed like gold. You are not there to entertain them, to reassure them, or to be one of them. You are there to be the fixed point they orbit. Distant enough to be unreachable, close enough to be felt. Your solitude is not a prison. It is the fortress wall that ensures no one, no matter how familiar, can ever touch the throne you sit upon. Law 6. Observation requires distance. In every hierarchy, the ones closest to the noise are the blindest to its direction. Immersed in movement, they see only fragments, a gesture here, a whisper there, but never the whole design. Perspective belongs only to those who step outside the circle and watch it turn. You already know the temptation to stay close. It feels safer, warmer, almost necessary. But closeness blinds you. When you are in the room, your mind reacts to its rhythm. You hear laughter and feel the pull to join it. You catch anger and find yourself defending against it. You stop watching and start participating. And the moment you participate, you lose your vantage point. Machiavelli warned that a man cannot see the game if he is standing in the middle of the board. Every step into their world robs you of the one thing they cannot afford you to have. Clarity. Distance is the silent weapon you never declare. From it, you begin to notice the alliances that others are too entangled to see. The casual nod between rivals. The way someone's tone shifts when a particular name enters the room. You watch, and you map loyalties long before they are spoken aloud. You see hesitation and know it as weakness. You see overconfidence and mark it for collapse. Each observation sharpens your advantage, because the one who predicts controls the one who reacts. And yet, the crowd will always try to pull you in. They will say you are cold. They will say you are detached. They will want you laughing at their jokes, drinking at their tables, and listening to their confessions. But you understand the cost. The moment you join their noise, you inherit their blindness. You begin to care how you are seen. You start defending your place instead of securing your control. So you remain still. You keep your words measured, your presence rare, and your eyes on the board instead of the players' faces. You let them believe you are uninterested, even distracted, while every detail imprints itself in your mind. Because perspective is not given, it is taken. And once you have it, prediction becomes inevitable. This is why the most powerful men are alone, not because they fear people, but because they refuse to become part of their theater. They choose the balcony over the stage, the silence over the applause. They know that distance is not loneliness. Distance is sight. And sight, in a world of the blind, is the first step toward absolute control. Law 7. Solitude is the final test of power. In every hierarchy, there comes a point where a man must face himself without the interference of others. In that space, the applause stops, the distractions fade, and every comforting lie begins to dissolve. It is here, in the absence of noise, that the truth of his strength is revealed. You think you can carry power because others follow you, because voices around you echo your name. But when those voices vanish, you begin to feel the quiet press in, exposing how much of your strength depends on their presence. This is why Machiavelli wrote that a man who cannot endure solitude will never hold power for long. If you flinch from your own company, you are not free. You are chained to the approval, the presence, the constant noise of others. Power built on such chains is nothing more than dependency in disguise. Most men drown in that silence. They reach for distraction, for comfort, for someone to confirm they still matter. But the powerful man does not merely survive solitude. He feeds on it. He cultivates it as the highest form of freedom, a freedom measured not by what you can control, but by what you can live without. In that independence lies the foundation of every empire. And when you can stand alone, without the crutch of another's presence, the world sees it for what it is, unshakable strength.